tonight at 6.
Good morning. Dallas, Texas, 25 years ago. Scenes from John F. Kennedy's trip to Dallas, a trip that ended in tragedy, a trip Americans will never forget. Those who still remember and those who mourn his loss are marking the 25th anniversary of JFK's death. Many are expected to file past his grave at Arlington National Cemetery, where the Kennedy flame still burns today, Tuesday, November the 22nd, 1988.
From NBC News, this is Today with Bryant Gumbel and Jane Pauley.
Good morning. Deborah Norville is joining us while Jane's on vacation. Welcome to Today on a special Tuesday, one mourning the loss of a special man 25 years ago today. Across this nation, John F. Kennedy is going to be remembered on this day as Americans recall his all-too-brief presidency and reflect on what might have been. And we'll do a bit of that this morning, starting in just a few moments with one of those closest to JFK and who knew him best, his longtime aide Ted Sorensen. And then later with a look at some letters mourning his loss. And then on After 8, we'll see how the Warren Commission report on JFK's assassination is held up over 25 years. Deborah?
Weather later, here is Bryant Gumbel.
All right, Willard, thanks. 7:10 now, and on Close-Up this morning, the words of JFK. For 11 years, Theodore Sorensen worked side by side with JFK as confidant, troubleshooter, idea man, and wordsmith. As chief counsel to the president, he was also one of JFK's major speechwriters, contributing to, among other things, Kennedy's famous inaugural address.
I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Theodore Sorensen has collected some of JFK's most important speeches and writings in a book entitled Let the Word Go Forth. Good morning, Mr. Sorensen.
Good morning, Brian.
Let me clarify something off the top. How much of his speeches did JFK write himself? Particularly that one.
JFK was the author of all of his speeches in the sense that he made the decisions that were reflected in the speeches. They were his policies. He took the credit or the blame depending upon how they went over with his audiences. He didn't pretend that he had time to write every word, and it was known that that was one of my duties to assist him. But he made the decisions.
All were very different, but what were the common elements to be found in, if we could characterize them as such, a Kennedy speech?
He used simple words in a simple, straightforward way. There wasn't the highfalutin adjectives and long, repetitive phrases that bore people in most political speeches.
But he did believe in using the presidency as, can I say, a pulpit in which to lay the outline of his vision of America?
He did indeed. He felt that eloquence, powerful oratory, was a way of getting his program across.
Let's take a look at another speech of his, this one from 1963, when he went on television and called on the nation to support his civil rights bill in a speech that you called one of his best.
If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch in a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content?
Why do you think that one of his best?
It was one of his most important. It was the first time the President of the United States had ever placed the majesty and power of his office at the front of the Civil Rights March and declared that all forms of segregation and discrimination based on color were to be banished from this country.
And yet Kennedy's been broadly criticized for what his critics see as foot-dragging on with a Dixiecrat Congress at the time on the civil rights issue.
I'm sure if I had been a black in the South in 1963, I would have thought the President was moving too slowly to recognize my rights. If I'd been a member of the Congress in the 1963, I would have said, and many of them did say, the President is moving much too fast on this. He's going to destroy his entire legislative program.
Let's take a look at another speech, this one very memorable for a lot of folks, delivered in the shadow of the Berlin Wall.
Today, in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is Ich bin ein Berliner.
Was he aware of his flair for the dramatic in his speeches?
I don't know that he was aware of the power that he had in each and every speech, but yes, he wanted to get his points across with as much clarity and power as possible. He knew that was the success to not only getting elected, but getting his views across.
You were close to him, though I doubt a day passes that you don't think of him.
It's true.
On this day, what are your thoughts?
It's a sad day for me, Brian, because those 11 years were the most important and the most challenging years of my life. I have to think back to my visits with him at the end of each day in the White House, to the times that we traveled the country together, the two of us, just an entire campaign team looking for the presidency, the times that he was nice to me personally, nice to my sons. He was a great friend as well as my boss.
The memories are personal.
They were very personal.
Theodore Sorensen, thanks very much for coming and sharing with us. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It's 1/4 the hour. We're going to come back in just a moment after a break. This is Today on NBC. Back now at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, 22nd morning of November of '88. Straight ahead in this hour, the question that's been asked and explored for 25 years now: who shot JFK? There have been two official investigations, but still many Americans aren't comfortable with the answers they're getting. On After 8 this morning, we'll talk with two men who took part in those investigations and who can't agree on an answer. And our On After 8 this morning, the Warren Commission report 25 years later. 5 days after the assassination of JFK, Chief Justice Earl Warren was appointed chairman of a Blue Ribbon Fact-Finding Commission empowered to investigate the shooting in Dallas. The commission focused on, among other things, Lee Harvey Oswald.
Well, I hope, above all else, it can set to rest many of the questions and many of the rumors that have been rampant since that fateful day about the circumstances and about the individual most concerned, about the background of Oswald, the circumstances surrounding him, whether or not he was acting by himself or in concert with others.
After a year of investigation, the Warren Commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald, acting alone, fired 3 shots from the Texas School Book Depository, 2 of which struck Kennedy from behind. And that Jack Ruby, also acting alone, killed Oswald out of the overwhelming sadness he felt for the Kennedy family. 15 years later, in 1979, after 2.5 years of research, the House Select Committee on Assassinations agreed with the conclusions, but went one step further. On the basis of acoustical evidence, the House Committee concluded that a 4th shot was fired at the motorcade.
It appears that, with a probability of 95% or better, there was indeed a shot fired from the grassy knoll.
Robert Blakey was chief counsel to the House Select Committee on Assassinations. He's presently a professor at Notre Dame University. In the simplest of terms, what's the basis for citing a 4th shot?
2 things. The testimony of witnesses in the plaza. There are approximately 20 witnesses in the plaza who said a shot was fired from the grassy knoll. There were at least 4 witnesses, including an FBI agent, a Secret Service agent, a Dallas policeman, and Abraham Zapruder himself, who differentiated shots from 2 directions. That plus the acoustics, which are today not as in good a shape as they were 10 years ago, say that there were 2 shooters in the plaza.
Do you doubt the Warren Commission acted in good faith?
No.